The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my downtown office. I almost didn't answer the unknown number, but something made me pick up. "Hello, is this Sophia Martinez?" The woman's voice was professional but slightly uncomfortable. "Yes, this is Sophia. Hi, I'm Jennifer Walsh from Pristine Events. I'm the wedding planner for your brother David's wedding at the Ocean View Grand Resort." I set down my coffee cup. David hadn't spoken to me in months, not since our last family dinner where he'd made it clear I wasn't welcome at family gatherings anymore. "Okay, what can I help you with?" "Well, this is rather awkward, but I received a call from your parents this morning. They've asked me to remove you from the guest list entirely." Her voice dropped slightly. "They said," and I quote, "she's not family anymore and isn't needed at this celebration." I leaned back in my leather chair, gazing out at the city skyline through my floor-to-ceiling windows. "I see. And what did you tell them?" "I told them I'd handle it professionally. I'm calling all affected guests personally." She paused. "I'm sorry, Ms. Martinez. This must be difficult to hear." "That's very considerate of you, Jennifer. Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you happy with the Ocean View Grand Resort? Is everything meeting your expectations for the wedding?" She seemed surprised by the question. "Oh yes, absolutely. It's one of the most beautiful venues we work with. The staff has been incredible, the facilities are world-class. We're so fortunate they had availability for next Saturday. It's usually booked solid months in advance." "That's wonderful to hear. I'm glad David chose such a nice place." I picked up my phone and opened my contacts. "Jennifer, I need to make a quick call. Can I call you back in about 10 minutes? "Sure, that's fine. Again, I'm really sorry about this situation." After hanging up, I dialed my assistant. "Maria, I need you to connect me with Jonathan Pierce at Ocean View Grand Resort immediately." "Right away, Ms. Martinez." Within 2 minutes, Jonathan was on the line. As the general manager of the flagship property in my resort chain, he'd been expecting my call about the Martinez wedding booking. "Sophia, I got your message about reviewing the event for this weekend. How would you like me to handle this?" "Jonathan, I want you to call the wedding planner, Jennifer Walsh from Pristine Events, and inform her that due to a scheduling conflict, the resort needs to cancel the Martinez wedding. Full refund of all deposits, of course. Explain that we've had a last-minute corporate buyout event that requires the entire facility." "Understood. Should I offer alternative dates?" "No. Make it clear that we're unable to accommodate any future bookings for this particular client." I glanced at my watch. "Also, please ensure that our other 6 resort locations in the area are informed that we cannot accommodate this wedding at any of our properties." "I'll handle it immediately. Anything else?" "Yes, when you speak with Ms. Walsh, please be sure to mention that this decision came directly from the chain's owner. Don't elaborate beyond that." "Of course, Sophia. Consider it done." I hung up and waited. Exactly 8 minutes later, my phone rang. "Ms. Martinez? This is Jennifer Walsh again. I just received a very unexpected call from the resort." "Oh. What did they say?" "They're canceling the wedding. Complete cancellation. They said there's been a last-minute corporate event that requires the entire facility." Her voice was strained with stress. "This has never happened to me before. Never. I've been planning weddings for 12 years. "That's terrible, Jennifer. What did they say exactly?" The general manager said the decision came directly from the chain's owner. He was very apologetic but firm. No alternative dates, no other locations in their chain. Nothing. I could hear papers rustling. "Ms. Martinez, I have a wedding for 200 people in 5 days and I have no venue. I don't know what I'm going to do." "That does sound challenging. Did they give you any other details?" "Not really. Just that it was a corporate decision from someone high up the chain." She paused. "Wait, did you say your last name was Martinez? Like the wedding?" "Yes, David Martinez is my brother." "Oh my God. Ms. Martinez, I need to ask you something and please forgive me if this sounds crazy, but do you happen to know anyone who works with this resort chain? Any connections that might help us understand what happened?" I smiled, looking at the framed photo on my desk from the ribbon-cutting ceremony when I'd acquired the Ocean View chain 3 years ago. "Jennifer, can I share something with you? Please, anything that might help." "The corporate buyout they mentioned? That would be my company. I'm the owner of the entire Ocean View resort chain." The line went completely silent for nearly 10 seconds. You own the resort chain? All 7 properties in the region, yes. I acquired them through my hospitality investment firm 3 years ago. But your family, they said you weren't family anymore. They made it sound like you were. She trailed off. Like I was what, Jennifer? Like you were struggling. Like you weren't successful. Your brother mentioned something about you having unrealistic dreams, and your parents said you were finally learning to be realistic about your limitations. I laughed, but not unkindly. Jennifer, can I ask you to do something for me? Yes, of course. Could you conference in my brother? I think there's been some miscommunication in my family that needs clearing up. Are you sure? I mean, I'm just the wedding planner. This seems very personal. Trust me, this is the best way to handle it. Can you call him now? A few minutes later, David's voice joined the call. Jennifer? What's going on? Please tell me you found a solution for the venue crisis. David, I have your sister Sophia on the line with us. What? Why? His tone immediately turned cold. Jennifer, I thought we made it clear that Sophia isn't involved in this wedding. We don't need her trying to insert herself into our celebration. David, I said calmly, Jennifer called to let me know I'd been removed from the guest list. Good. I'm glad she handled it professionally. We don't need any drama or attention-seeking behavior at my wedding. I agreed with that decision completely. No drama is important for such a special day. Jennifer's voice was tentative. David, there's something else we need to discuss about the venue. Right, this cancellation crisis. Jennifer, I don't care what it costs. Find us another high-end location. Money isn't an object. This is my wedding to Victoria, and it needs to be perfect. David, I interjected. Before Jennifer continues, can I ask you something? Make it quick, Sophia. I'm busy dealing with a real crisis here, not whatever imaginary problems you're having this week. When you booked the Ocean View Grand Resort, did you research who owns it? What does that matter? Some big corporation. The point is it's exclusive and expensive, which reflects well on our family's status. Jennifer's voice was barely above a whisper. David, your sister owns the resort chain. The line went silent again. That's impossible, David finally said. Sophia works some basic office job. She lives in a tiny apartment. She drives a 10-year-old car. David, I said gently, I live in a penthouse downtown and I take car service most places because I'm usually working during commutes. The car you've seen is my weekend car that I use for grocery runs. This is ridiculous. Sophia, stop making things up for attention. Jennifer, I said, could you please read David the exact message you received from the resort's general manager? I heard papers rustling. He said, and I wrote this down word for word. Due to a corporate decision from the chain owner, we cannot accommodate the Martinez wedding at any of our 7 regional locations. 7 locations? David's voice had changed. How many properties are we talking about? The Ocean View chain has 7 luxury resorts in our area, I explained. Including the Grand Resort where your wedding was planned, the Ocean View Palms where Victoria's bridal shower was held last month, and the Ocean View Marina where your rehearsal dinner was booked. Another long silence. Sophia, David said slowly, are you telling me you own all of those places? I own the entire chain, yes. I acquired them in 2021 through Martinez Hospitality Holdings. Martinez Hospitality Holdings? My investment company. I named it after our family. Jennifer's voice was getting stronger as she began to understand the situation. Ms. Martinez, when the general manager said the owner made this decision personally. That was me, yes. After Jennifer called to tell me my family had decided I wasn't family anymore, I decided to respect that decision by not hosting family events at my properties. This can't be real, David said, but his voice had lost its certainty. If you own this chain, prove it. Jennifer, are you still there? Yes, Ms. Martinez. Could you call the Ocean View Grand Resort back? Ask for Jonathan Pierce, the general manager. Tell him you need to confirm details about the ownership situation. Should I disconnect this call? No, use 3-way calling if you can. I think David should hear this directly. A few minutes later, Jonathan's familiar voice joined our conversation. Good afternoon, this is Jonathan Pierce. Mr. Pierce, this is Jennifer Walsh from Pristine Events. I'm here with David Martinez and his sister Sofia Martinez. There seems to be some confusion about the ownership of your resort chain. No confusion on our end, Jonathan said professionally. Ms. Sofia Martinez is the sole owner of all Ocean View Resort properties. She acquired our chain in 2021 and has been an exceptional owner. Is there something specific you need clarified? David's voice was barely audible. How much did those resorts cost? Jonathan paused. I'm not sure I can discuss financial details, but it was a significant acquisition. Over $200 million for the entire chain. The line went completely quiet except for the sound of David's heavy breathing. Mr. Martinez, Jonathan continued, I understand there was some confusion about the wedding booking. Ms. Martinez has instructed us to provide a full refund, which we're processing immediately. David, I said gently, are you still there? Sofia, I don't understand. How do you own a $200 million resort chain? Where did that money come from? I've been building my investment portfolio since college. I started with small property investments and grew from there. The resort chain was my largest acquisition, but I have holdings in several other industries as well. But Mom and Dad said you were struggling. They said your business ideas never worked out. They said that because I don't talk about my work with the family. Every time I've tried to share my successes, the response has been dismissive or the conversation gets changed to someone else's achievements. Jennifer's voice was hesitant. Should I leave you two to talk privately? Actually, Jennifer, I have a question for you, I said. How quickly could you find an alternative venue for David's wedding? Ms. Martinez, with 5 days' notice and 200 guests? It would be nearly impossible to find something comparable to the Ocean View Grand. What if I told you I could guarantee you a venue that's even more exclusive? David's voice was sharp. Sofia, what are you doing? I'm being a good sister, David. Jennifer, there's an 8th Ocean View property that's not open to public bookings. It's my private resort on Catalina Island. I use it for executive retreats and special occasions. A private island resort? Jennifer's voice had gone up an octave. 40-acre property with a private beach, helicopter pad, and facilities for up to 300 guests. Full catering staff, event coordination, luxury accommodations for the wedding party and immediate family. David's voice was strained. Why would you, after everything we said? Because despite what happened today, you're still my brother. Anne Victoria deserves a beautiful wedding. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything right now, David. You're probably in shock. But here's what I propose. You and Victoria can have your wedding at my private resort, all expenses covered. Full luxury service, helicopter transport for the bridal party, everything you dreamed of and more. Jennifer was clearly taking notes. Ms. Martinez, this is incredibly generous. There's just one condition, I continued. David's voice was wary. What condition? I'd like to be invited to my brother's wedding. The silence stretched for nearly 15 seconds. Of course, David finally whispered. Of course you're invited. We need to talk. Really talk. We will. But first, let's make sure you have the wedding of your dreams. Jennifer, can you handle coordinating with my events team for the island property? Absolutely. Ms. Martinez, this is the most incredible turnaround I've ever experienced in my career. Jonathan, are you still on the line? Yes, Ms. Martinez. Please coordinate with Jennifer to arrange helicopter transport from your marina location to the island. Make sure the transition is seamless for all the guests. It would be my pleasure. After we'd finished coordinating the logistics, Jennifer and Jonathan left the call, leaving just David and me on the line. Sofia, David said quietly, I owe you the biggest apology of my life. David, we both made mistakes. I should have been more open about my success, and you should have asked more questions instead of making assumptions. But Sofia, we treated you terribly. All of us. Mom and Dad think you're struggling to pay rent. I know. I've been letting them think that because every time I tried to share good news, it was dismissed or minimized. It became easier to just let you all think what you wanted to think. How successful are you really? I looked around my office at the city view at the photos from various business acquisitions and charity events. My net worth is around $400 million, David. The resort chain is just one part of my portfolio. 400. He trailed off. Sophia, you're incredibly successful. I've been fortunate and I've worked very hard. All this time I thought you were just dreaming. That you hadn't figured out real life yet. I figured out real life differently than our family expected, but I did figure it out. David was quiet for a long moment. The wedding invitation. Sophia, that wasn't my idea. Mom and Dad convinced me that having you there would create drama, that you'd try to make the day about yourself. David, when have I ever tried to make family events about myself? Another long pause. Never. You've never done that. You usually sit quietly in the background. Exactly. I show up, I'm supportive, and I keep my own life private. Which we interpreted as failure instead of discretion. It seems that way. Sophia, can we start over? Can our family start over with you? I thought about all the years of dismissive comments, the assumptions, the way my achievements were minimized or ignored. But I also thought about David's voice right now, the genuine regret and shock. I'd like that, David. But it has to be genuine. No more assumptions about my life or my choices. And when I share something I'm proud of, I need it to be received with the same enthusiasm the family shows for everyone else's achievements. Absolutely. And Sophia, Victoria and we want to make this right. All of us. Then let's start with giving you both the most beautiful wedding celebration possible. You can make things right with the family afterward. The private island resort. Sophia, that's too generous. We can't accept something that expensive. I smiled, looking out at the city I'd helped reshape through my investments. David, it's not about the money. It's about family. And despite everything that's happened, you're still my family. We don't deserve this kindness. Maybe not, but you're getting it anyway. That's what family does. I need to call Victoria. Mom and Dad. They need to know. David, wait. Let me suggest something. Don't tell them about my business success yet. Let's just tell them the venue situation got resolved. After the wedding, when everyone's relaxed and happy, we can have a family conversation about everything. Why wait? Because right now they're going to be defensive and embarrassed. Let's give them a beautiful wedding celebration first, then address the bigger issues when emotions aren't running so high. You're probably right. You've always been the smart one in the family. We're all smart in different ways, David. We just haven't been very good at recognizing that in each other. 3 days later, I stood on the deck of my private resort, watching the sun set over the Pacific as the final preparations were completed for David's wedding. The island looked absolutely magical, with thousands of white lights strung between the palm trees, elegant seating arrangements on the beach, and a dance floor positioned perfectly to overlook the ocean. Victoria had cried when she first saw the setup. Sophia, this is more beautiful than anything I ever imagined. My parents had been quiet since arriving on the island, clearly overwhelmed by the luxury and exclusivity of the venue. They kept asking questions about how I'd arranged such an elaborate location, and I kept giving vague answers about having connections. The ceremony itself was perfect. David's vows brought tears to everyone's eyes, and Victoria looked absolutely radiant in her dress. As they exchanged rings with the ocean as their backdrop, I felt a genuine happiness for them that I hadn't expected after everything that had happened. During the reception, my father approached me at the bar. Sophia, this place, how did you manage to secure something like this? I've never seen anything so beautiful. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Dad. But the cost. This must have cost more than most people's houses. How are we going to pay for this? I smiled, sipping my champagne. Don't worry about the cost. It's handled. But Sophia, you can't afford something like this. Nobody can, except maybe billionaires. Dad, we agreed to have family conversations after the wedding. Tonight is about David and Victoria. He nodded, but I could see the questions churning in his mind. Later, during the dancing, my mother pulled me aside. Sophia, I need to apologize for the invitation situation. David told me what happened with the wedding planner. It's okay, Mom. No, it's not. We made assumptions about you, about your life, and we were wrong to exclude you. We can talk about all of this tomorrow. Tonight is about celebrating. But I feel terrible. You arranged this incredible celebration for David after we treated you so poorly. I looked around at the fairy tale setting, at David and Victoria dancing under the stars, at family members enjoying themselves in ways I'd rarely seen. Mom, seeing everyone happy like this is worth it. Family is complicated, but it's still family. You're a better person than any of us deserved. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do moving forward. The next morning, the entire family gathered for brunch on the resort's main terrace. The atmosphere was relaxed, with everyone still glowing from the previous night's celebration. So, my father said, setting down his coffee cup, I think it's time for some honest family conversation. David and Victoria exchanged glances. Dad, there are some things about Sophia that we need to discuss. Like how she managed to arrange all of this luxury? Among other things, David said carefully. I took a breath. Before anyone says anything, I want to be clear that I didn't arrange this celebration to prove a point or make anyone feel bad. I did it because I love this family despite our communication problems. Communication problems? My mother raised an eyebrow. Mom, when was the last time you asked me about my work? Really asked, not just made polite conversation. She was quiet for a moment. I suppose I assumed if something important was happening, you'd tell us. I tried to many times. But every time I shared good news about my business, the conversation got redirected to someone else's achievements, or I was told I was being unrealistic. My father frowned. That's not true. We've always been supportive. Dad, 2 months ago I tried to tell you about a major business acquisition I'd completed. You told me I should focus on getting a stable job with benefits instead of chasing dreams. Victoria spoke up quietly. What kind of acquisition? I looked around the table at my family, these people I loved despite everything. I bought a chain of luxury resorts for $200 million. The silence was absolute. $200 million? My mother whispered. The Ocean View Resort chain. 7 properties, including the one where you originally booked the wedding. David leaned forward. Sophia, tell them the rest. I own the resort we're sitting on right now. This is my private island. My father set down his coffee cup with shaking hands. Your private island. Along with various other real estate investments, technology companies, and financial holdings. My total net worth is approximately $400 million. My mother stared at me for a long moment. $400 million. Yes. And we told people you were struggling. We worried about your future. We excluded you from family events because we thought you were unsuccessful. I know. My father's voice was barely audible. How long have you had this level of success? I've been building my portfolio for 8 years. The major growth happened in the last 4 years. 8 years, he repeated. And we never knew. Because every time I tried to share it, I was dismissed or told to be more realistic. Victoria reached across the table and took my hand. Sophia, this explains so much about how you carry yourself. You have this quiet confidence that I always admired but couldn't understand. I learned early that my family wasn't interested in hearing about my business success, so I stopped sharing it. My mother was crying now. We failed you so completely. You didn't fail me, Mom. We just had different definitions of success, and we never took the time to understand each other's perspectives. But we excluded you from your own brother's wedding because we thought you were an embarrassment. David's voice was thick with emotion. And instead, she's the most successful person in our entire extended family. Success isn't just about money, I said gently. You've all built relationships, careers, families. Those are successes too. But the money. My father was struggling with the concept. $400 million, Sophia. That's generational wealth. It is. And I intend to use it responsibly, including supporting family when appropriate. Supporting family? My mother looked up through her tears. Dad, your accounting firm has been struggling since the recession, right? He nodded slowly. Business has been tough. What if I told you I could connect you with clients who need exactly the kind of personalized service you provide? Small to medium-sized businesses that value the personal touch over big corporate accounting firms. You would do that? After how we treated you? You're my father. Of course I would do that. I turned to my mother. Mom, your nonprofit work with literacy programs. What's your biggest challenge right now? Funding, she said immediately. We have the volunteers and the demand, but not enough resources to expand our programs. What if funding wasn't an issue? What if you had enough resources to implement every program you've dreamed of? Her eyes widened. Sophia, you can't just solve our problems with money. I'm not solving your problems. I'm offering to provide resources so you can solve them yourselves. There's a difference. David was shaking his head in amazement. Sophia, you're talking about changing our entire family's trajectory. I'm talking about what family does for each other when they have the resources and the opportunity. But we don't deserve this, my father said firmly. We treated you terribly. Deserve is a complicated word, Dad. Do any of us really deserve the good things that happen to us? Or do we just try to be grateful and use our opportunities responsibly? Victoria was wiping away tears. You're incredible. The way you're handling this, the grace you're showing. I've never seen anything like it. I've had time to think about this moment, I admitted. I knew eventually the truth about my success would come out. I decided long ago that when it did, I wanted to handle it with love instead of anger. My mother reached for my hands. How do we make this right? How do we rebuild our relationship with you? By starting fresh. By asking questions instead of making assumptions. By celebrating each other's successes instead of minimizing them. By being a family that lifts each other up instead of tearing each other down. Can you forgive us? My father asked. I looked around the table at these imperfect people who had raised me, supported me in their own limited ways, and yes, sometimes hurt me with their assumptions and dismissiveness. But they were also the people who had taught me values, encouraged my education, and shaped me into someone capable of building the success I'd achieved. There's nothing to forgive, Dad. There's only moving forward together. David raised his champagne glass. To moving forward together. And to Sophia, who taught us what real grace looks like. As we toasted, I felt something I hadn't experienced with my family in years. Genuine connection, honest communication, and hope for our future together. Later that afternoon, as the family prepared to return to the mainland, Victoria hugged me tightly. Thank you for giving us the most beautiful wedding imaginable. But more than that, thank you for giving our family a second chance. Thank you for welcoming me back into it, I replied. As the helicopter lifted off with my family aboard, I stood on the beach and watched them disappear into the sky. Tomorrow we'd begin the real work of rebuilding our relationships. There would be awkward conversations, learning curves, and probably some missteps along the way. But for the first time in years, I felt like I had my family back. And that was worth more than all the business success in the world. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Thank you for everything. But mostly, thank you for being the sister we didn't deserve but somehow got lucky enough to have. I smiled, looking out at the ocean, and typed back, thank you for being my family. Always.
My mother-in-law took my passport and burned it. It went up in flames quickly and turned to ashes. Now I can't go on my vacation to St. Bert's Island. I was shocked and asked, what's going on? She smirked and said, you're a stranger here, so you'll be staying home, while my husband grinned too. I was horrified by their cruel trick. I knew they might do something like this, but I didn't expect them to be so sneaky. They looked pleased with themselves and even laughed in a nasty way. Then I told them who I really am. My name is Tyra, I'm 29, and I study linguistics at university. Since graduating, I've been learning about different languages and cultures and sharing what I know. My organization sends me on trips abroad, and when that happens, I'm gone for a few months. When I first started this job, I thought marriage wasn't something I'd ever do. But when I went back to my home country at 26, I met Corey, who eventually became my husband. Because of my job, I only see him for a few months at a time before I had to travel again. We stayed in touch with phone calls and emails while I was away. 2 years later, at 28, we got married. Even after our wedding, I continued to spend half the year working abroad, so we were apart a lot. I'm thankful he chose to marry me despite this. Today, I'm heading home from the airport. It's the first time I'll see my husband in 5 months. I should be tired, but I'm excited and walking quickly. When I got home, Corey wasn't there yet, so I started tidying up. I always tell him to keep the place clean, but it's a bit messy. Normally, this would upset me, but today I'm willing to overlook it because I'm just happy to see him. While I'm cooking, I hear the front door open. Corey walks in, and I rush to greet him. Corey, welcome home. It's so good to see you. Oh, hi, Tyra. You're back. Is that all you can say? We haven't seen each other in 5 months. Well, we've been living like this for a while, so I'm used to it. What? Can't you at least say you missed me? Oh, what? I'm tired. Anyway, is dinner ready? Yeah, I just finished cooking. Let's eat. Eating with my husband after so many months feels like the best meal ever. Normally, I'd be happy with just this, but today feels a bit different. Hey Corey, why do you keep staring at your phone? What? What's the problem? Nothing's wrong, but I'm finally home. You've been glued to your phone and haven't really talked to me. We've been in touch through calls and emails all this time, haven't we? There's nothing new to talk about now. That might be true, but it's been a long time since we've seen each other like this. So why? My frustration with my husband's attitude makes my voice rise. It looks like my comment upset him. He stood up, put his phone on the table, and glared at me. You know what? You were just on a plane, but I'm exhausted from work. Got it? Hold on. I also jumped on a plane right after work. Didn't you talk to me like that? I didn't ask you to do that. You just rushed home on your own. What? You don't have to say it like that. I missed you. I'm just saying I didn't ask you to come home. If you're going to be like this, don't come back at all. You're being annoying, Tyra. He slammed the table and stormed out of the living room, leaving his dinner untouched. What's wrong with him? Why is he being so cold? I haven't seen him in a long time. Was I the only one excited to see him? What's the point of coming home early if it's like this? Tears fell from my eyes and onto the table. Our reunion was even more disappointing than I had feared. The next day, his attitude didn't improve. When I greeted him with a good morning, he looked at me coldly. I envy you, he said. You get to relax at home all the time while I'm stuck working. That's not true, I replied. I have a lot of work to do, like summarizing our activities and preparing for the next training session. It's a lot of work, more than you think. Either way, it's something you can do at home. I wish I had a job where I could spend half the year like that. You don't have to talk like that. Well, I'm just a company guy, so I have to go to work. You enjoy your time at home, princess. What the heck, Corey? Ignoring me, my husband left the house. We had a few arguments before we got married, but he had never been this sarcastic. I was really confused by his behavior and wondered if his words were causing problems between us. I thought about what I might do to improve the situation. While I was going through work materials, I decided to tidy up the house. As I was vacuuming and changing the bed linens, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. Feeling uneasy, I answered the call. Hello, Tyra here. Hi, Tyra. It's been a while. I heard you're back home and that you arrived yesterday. Yes, that's right. And I also heard you upset Corey. He was quite angry. I'm sorry, but it's nothing that should concern you. Well, since you're back, how about we plan a family trip? What? I was taken aback by her suggestion. Before I could respond, my mother-in-law continued. I was just talking with my husband about going to St. Bert's Island, and Corey mentioned he wanted to join us. What? That's... So Tyra, you're used to traveling abroad, right? Could you help us with hotel reservations and other arrangements? Me. Or are you having trouble understanding what your mother-in-law is asking you to do? Her voice grew colder. It was clear she didn't really want to travel with me. She just thought it would be easier for her since I'm experienced with travel. I knew my mother-in-law didn't have a high opinion of me. She'd been sarcastic ever since we first met at the wedding reception. Even after 2 years of marriage, things hadn't changed. I often received messages from her while I was working abroad. How can you be a wife and stay away from home for months? If you don't take care of the house, I'd rather my son marry someone else. It was a mistake to let him marry you. That's the kind of text I used to get from her. So I had a bad feeling about this call. I never imagined I'd be used for planning a family vacation. But maybe it's better than the usual verbal abuse. I was frustrated with myself for not being able to say no, even though I knew I was being used. A few hours later, my husband came home from work in a much better mood than earlier. He tossed his briefcase on the sofa and, smiling widely, called out to me. Mom called, didn't she? We can go on a trip to St. Bert's. Yeah, I heard. But you know what? What? You're not thinking of turning it down, are you? Mom wants you to come with us, I understand, but why don't you just go with your mom and dad like you originally planned? As soon as I said that, my husband's demeanor changed. He clicked his tongue and his tone became more threatening. You need to understand your role here. The only time you're useful to us is when we're traveling. You don't have to speak like that. It's true, isn't it? Anyway, you'll handle all the flight and hotel bookings. And everything should be in my name, as you probably know. What, Corey? You're going to pay for the whole trip. What are you talking about? We'll split the cost 50-50ths. It's a small price to pay to show respect to our parents. What is that supposed to mean? If you've got time to lounge around at home, make the reservations now. This isn't right. I don't want to. What are you mumbling about? My husband grabbed a beer from the fridge and drank it in one gulp. I had a lot on my mind, but I wasn't sure what might happen if I resisted. I felt embarrassed, but I had no choice but to do what my husband and mother-in-law wanted. I made all the arrangements for the flights and accommodations for the trip to St. Bert's, just as my husband had ordered. On the day of the trip, I was set to pick them up at my in-laws' house and head straight to the airport. A few days before the trip, I couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, I noticed my husband, who was supposed to be next to me, wasn't there. I went to the living room and heard him talking on the phone with someone. "Oh, it's okay. It's all okay, Mom. I'll be there first thing in the morning as planned." "Mom, please handle the passport issue anyway. Seriously, I'm looking forward to it. I'll make sure to introduce her to you when I get back." I was puzzled by some of what he said. Passport, introducing her. Since he called her Mom, I was pretty sure he was talking to my mother-in-law. It seemed like there was something going on between them that I didn't know about. In the first place, it didn't sit right with me that he wanted me to go on this trip. What could they be planning if I went to my in-laws' house? I didn't have all the details, but I decided to stay extremely cautious until the day of the trip. The day of our trip to St. Bert's finally arrived. I packed my carry-on and handbag, which included my husband's things as well. With everything ready, my husband and I headed to my in-laws' house. I braced myself for whatever was coming, knowing I had to deal with it. When we arrived at my in-laws' house, my mother-in-law was the only one to greet us. "Oh, hi, Tyra. It's been a while. Good to see you. We're almost ready. I'm going to grab a few things for the trip, so it might be a little while." "Okay, take your time. Oh, and Tyra, could you bring the carry-on case from the other room? It's heavy, so please get Corey to help you." "Sure, I'll do that." I noticed when my husband and mother-in-law exchanged knowing looks. I kept my passport in my pocket, just in case. Following my husband's instructions, I carried the carry-on case back into the living room. There was my mother-in-law, smiling with a hint of mischief. She was holding my passport and grinning. "Now you can't go on the trip to St. Bert's," she said. "What do you mean?" "I'm going to burn this passport right now." "What did you just say?" "I was just using you to handle the trip arrangements." "What are you doing?" "You're a stranger here, so you'll be staying behind." "Too bad." She went to the kitchen, lit the passport with a lighter, and watched it burn. The passport started to turn to black ashes in the sink. Once it was completely destroyed, she said, "We did it." My husband cheered. "Yeah, Mom, we made it." "No," I said. "It's just the three of us on this trip. We'll get to meet Corey's new girlfriend when we get back, right?" "Yeah, I've already set that up," my mother-in-law replied. "We don't need this useless woman anymore," my father-in-law said. "You know when something isn't working." He pulled out his cell phone and showed me pictures of himself with another woman, looking pleased with himself. "I'm not divorcing you for the sake of my reputation, but you'll be staying here while we go on our trip. When we get back, I'll move in with her, and you can leave." My mother-in-law laughed mockingly at his words. Their expressions were full of malice. At that moment, I knew I didn't belong in a family like this anymore. I forced a smile and said, "By the way, whose passport is that?" "What are you talking about?" "It's yours, of course." "I took it out of your handbag, so it's your passport." "My passport is right here," I said, holding it up. "What? Why? It can't be." I pulled my passport from my pocket and showed it to her. My mother-in-law's face went pale as she stared at me in panic. "That's not possible," she said, her voice trembling. "Yes, it's my passport. See for yourself." It seemed that my mother-in-law had snuck into my handbag and mistakenly thought she'd have found my passport. How could she have burned it without checking properly, especially with her malicious plans? "Whose passport did I burn then?" she asked, her voice quivering. "I guess it was your son's passport that was in there." "So you burned my son's passport?" she asked, horrified. My mother-in-law turned white and began to tremble. My husband, furious, started blaming her. "Mom, what have you done? I told you to be careful. I only found one passport in her handbag. Who would have thought it belonged to me? I don't care. You didn't check properly, and now look what happened. You're saying it's my fault?" If you had checked from the start, I wouldn't have made this mistake. What the hell? Before long, they were blaming each other. I was furious and disgusted by their behavior. Hey, Tyra, do something. My husband yelled at me, but I was not about to back down. Seriously, who do you think you are? Telling you what to do. You cheated on me behind my back. How dare you? Both you and your mother are despicable. Hey, who do you think you're talking to? I'm talking to you and your awful mother. Don't think I'm just going to let this slide. You're going to pay me back for the affair and all the nasty things your mother has said to me. Be ready. Just then, my father-in-law came downstairs. What's going on? What are you doing? When I told my father-in-law everything, he was furious. The trip was canceled, my mother-in-law got a divorce, and my husband was disowned by his father and banned from coming home. I consulted a lawyer, and we finalized the divorce. I also demanded alimony from both my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. They had to pay the alimony in one lump sum and cover the cost of canceling the trip to St. Bert's. Since they didn't save any money, they had to borrow to cover the alimony. In the end, they managed to repay everything by borrowing funds. Now my ex-husband lives with his mother and it looks like they are struggling financially. He was also dumped by the woman he had an affair with. As for me, I used the alimony money to move into a condo and enjoy living alone. After all the cheating and mistreatment, I went through many difficulties, but now I'm free and loving life. I plan to continue traveling, learning about different cultures, and sharing my experiences with the world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. Gone. Every last recipe. Patricia's voice dripped with satisfaction through my phone's speaker. The website, the photos, those ridiculous video tutorials, all of it. Maybe now you'll remember what's really important in life. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. And what would that be, Patricia? Family, of course. My son needs a proper wife, not some wannabe internet chef. Honestly, Sarah, 5 years of marriage and not even trying for children, it's shameful. My name is Sarah Chen Roberts, and I had spent the last 5 years building the Fusion Kitchen into one of the most successful Asian American food blogs in the country. What had started as a way to preserve my grandmother's recipes had grown into a thriving business with over 2 million monthly readers. And my mother-in-law had just broken into my home office to delete it all. Or so she thought. Well, I said calmly, watching the security camera footage on my laptop, I appreciate you letting me know. That's it. Patricia sounded disappointed. No crying? No begging? I expected more drama from you, Sarah. Sorry to disappoint. I need to go now, client meeting. I ended the call and took a deep breath, reminding myself that everything important was safely backed up in multiple locations. But that wasn't what made me smile. It was the crystal clear video playing on my screen. Patricia, using a key she wasn't supposed to have, sneaking into my office at 2:47 p.m. Patricia, methodically deleting files from my computer for over an hour. Patricia, making a phone call, which my system had also recorded, to someone named Marcus about taking care of the cloud problem. James, my husband, was away at a medical conference, which was probably why she'd chosen today to strike. He'd always tried to play peacekeeper between us, making excuses for his mother's behavior. She's just old-fashioned, he'd say. She doesn't understand modern marriages. But this was different. This was my career, my passion, my livelihood. I picked up my phone again and called my best friend, May. You're not going to believe what your favorite mother-in-law just did, I said when she answered. Oh God, what now? Did she reorganize your kitchen again? Replace all your spices with proper American ones. She broke into my office and deleted my entire blog. There was a moment of silence then. She did Waijiki. I explained everything. The break-in, the deletion, the smug phone call. But here's the thing, I added. I've got it all on video. And that call she made, it wasn't just about deleting my work. She's planning something bigger. Please tell me you're going to destroy her, May said, and I could hear the grin in her voice. Not yet. First, I need to figure out what she's really up to. The blog deletion seems like just the beginning. After hanging up with May, I started digging deeper into the security footage. Patricia had spent a suspicious amount of time going through my filing cabinet, photographing documents with her phone. She also plugged something into my computer, a USB drive that she carefully removed and pocketed before leaving. I pulled up the backup log on my encrypted cloud storage. Everything was there: recipes, photos, videos, user comments, everything she thought she'd destroyed. But there was something else. An unauthorized access attempt from an IP address I didn't recognize, timestamped just minutes after Patricia left my office. Someone had tried to hack my cloud storage. Someone with professional skills. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Dinner on Sunday. No excuses this time. We need to discuss your priorities." I thought about declining, but curiosity won out. What was she planning? And who was this Marcus person she called? Looking forward to it, I texted back. The next morning, I met with Nina, my web security consultant, in a quiet coffee shop downtown. "Someone tried to brute force your accounts," she confirmed, examining the logs on her laptop. "Pretty sophisticated attempt too, not your average hacker. Can you trace it?" Nina nodded, typing rapidly. "The attack came from a company called Cyber Shield Solutions. They're a legitimate security firm, but they've been known to take less legitimate side jobs. Any way to find out who hired them?" "Give me a few days." "But Sarah," she looked up from her screen, "be careful. This feels bigger than just deleting a food blog." She was right. Patricia had always disapproved of my career, but this level of aggression was new. Breaking and entering, hiring hackers, what was driving her? I spent the next few days pretending everything was normal. I answered client emails, worked on new recipes, and acted like my entire website hadn't just been attacked. The backed-up version was running smoothly on a new server. But I kept that quiet. Let Patricia think she'd won. On Sunday evening, I pulled up to her sprawling suburban home, noting the unfamiliar black SUV in the driveway. James had texted to say his conference was running long. He wouldn't be back until tomorrow. Convenient. Patricia opened the door wearing her usual forced smile. "Sarah, darling, come in. We have a guest I'd like you to meet." The man sitting in her living room stood as I entered. Tall, expensive suit, the kind of smooth confidence that set off immediate alarm bells. "Marcus Thompson," he said, extending his hand. "I'm a family lawyer. Patricia's been telling me about your situation." I kept my face neutral as I shook his hand. So this was Marcus, the man from the phone call. What situation would that be? I asked, taking a seat. Patricia bustled in with a tea tray, her voice syrupy sweet. "We're worried about you, dear. All this time spent on that silly website, neglecting your real responsibilities. Marcus here specializes in marriage counseling and family planning." "How thoughtful," I said, accepting a cup of tea. "And what exactly does that mean?" Marcus leaned forward, all business. "Mrs. Chen Roberts, your mother-in-law has expressed concerns about the direction of your marriage. She believes your online activities have become an obstacle to starting a family. We'd like to discuss options for refocusing your priorities." I took a sip of tea, studying them both. Patricia looked triumphant, Marcus professional, but with an undercurrent of something else. "Threat? Warning? Options?" I prompted. "Yes," Marcus continued. "We've prepared some documents, a new prenuptial agreement, actually, one that would ensure your full commitment to family life." Patricia practically glowed. "It's for the best, dear. James agrees. He's already reviewed the papers." That was a lie. I knew my husband well enough to know he'd never agree to something like this without talking to me first. But I kept my expression curious, interested. "May I see these documents?" Marcus produced a thick folder from his briefcase. As I flipped through the pages, my suspicions were confirmed. This wasn't just about my blog or having children. This was a complete takeover of my life. The new agreement would require me to shut down my business entirely. Any income I earned would go into a trust controlled by Patricia. I would need her approval for any major decisions, from where we lived to how we spent our money. "This is quite thorough," I said mildly. "When would you need my signature?" "Tonight, ideally," Marcus replied. "We'd like to file first thing tomorrow." I closed the folder and set it on the coffee table. "And if I refuse?" Patricia's smile turned cold. "Then we'd have to explore other options. James's position at the hospital is quite dependent on his mother's influence on the board. And of course, there's the matter of your permanent resident status." Ah, there it was. The real threat. Patricia had always held my immigrant status over my head. Even though I'd become a citizen years ago, she'd never bothered to learn the difference. I see, I said, standing up. Well, this has been enlightening. I'll need time to review everything with my home lawyer. That won't be necessary, Marcus started, but I was already heading for the door. I'll be in touch, I called over my shoulder. Thank you for the tea. Back in my car, I pulled out my phone and started recording. Note to self. Sunday, October 15th, 7:45 p.m. Patricia Roberts and Marcus Thompson attempted to coerce me into signing a new prenuptial agreement under threat of interfering with my husband's career and my immigration status. Full security footage of break-in and website deletion attempt available. Sending copies to secure storage now. I had a feeling I was going to need all the evidence I could get. The next morning, I walked into the offices of Wong and Associates, a law firm specializing in both business and family law. Grace Wong, my friend since college, had dropped everything to meet with me when I called last night. Let me get this straight, she said, reviewing the security footage on her laptop. Your mother-in-law broke into your house, tried to destroy your business, hired hackers to attack your backup servers, and then attempted to blackmail you into signing away your rights. Don't forget threatening my husband's career and making vague implications about my immigration status. I added, pulling out the documents from last night. Here's what they wanted me to sign. Grace read through the papers, her expression darkening with each page. This is, Sarah, this is insane. These terms aren't just restrictive. They're practically indentured servitude, and completely unenforceable, by the way. I figured. But what I don't understand is why now. Patricia's always been controlling, but this level of aggression seems extreme. Grace typed something into her computer. Let me look into something. That lawyer, Marcus Thompson. His name sounds familiar. While she searched, I checked my phone. Still no response from James to my messages about coming home early. But there was an email from Nina, my security consultant. Found the money trail. CyberShield Solutions was paid through a shell company owned by Roberts Family Holdings. But here's where it gets interesting. They weren't just hired to attack your blog. They've been monitoring all your communications for months. Call me ASAP. Sarah, Grace's voice pulled me back. You need to see this. She turned her monitor around. On the screen was a news article from 3 years ago. Local attorney disbarred for fraudulent estate planning scheme. The photos showed a younger Marcus Thompson being led out of a courthouse in handcuffs. He lost his license for helping wealthy families hide assets from the government, Grace explained. Now he works as a consultant for people looking to circumvent the law. If he's involved. This is about more than just my blog or having babies, I finished. But what's the endgame? Grace pulled up another document. Your company's financials. The Fusion Kitchen is worth what now? Last valuation was around $3.5 million. The cookbook deal I signed last month should push it over $4 million by year's end. And your husband is the sole heir to the Roberts family fortune. I nodded. Patricia's late husband left everything in trust for James. She manages it until he turns 40 or has children of his own. Grace sat back, realization dawning. That's in 6 months, isn't it? When James turns 40. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Patricia's escalating behavior, the urgent push for grandchildren, the attempt to seize control of my assets. She's trying to maintain control of the money, I said. If James has children, he gets the trust. But if they can force me out of the picture, he might marry someone more amenable to Patricia's influence, Grace finished. Someone who would let her keep controlling everything. I thought about all the suitable young women Patricia was always trying to introduce James to at church functions. The not-so-subtle hints about divorce rates in mixed marriages. She wants me gone before James's birthday, I said. That's why they're moving so fast. Grace was already pulling out legal forms. We need to move faster. First, we document everything. The break-in, the hacking attempt, last night's coercion attempt. Then we go after them for criminal charges. No, I said, an idea forming. Not yet. I have a better plan. Over the next week, I set my plan in motion. First, I had Nina install additional security measures and monitoring software. If Patricia tried to access anything of mine again, we'd know immediately. Then I started posting on my blog again, using the backup site Patricia didn't know about. But instead of my usual recipes, I began sharing stories. Stories about my grandmother's journey to America, about preserving cultural heritage through food, about building businesses and following dreams. The posts went viral. Your traffic has tripled, Nina reported during our daily check-in. And guess who's spending hours reading every post and comment? Patricia. Through multiple devices, she's practically stalking your site, probably trying to figure out how it's still running. Perfect. Meanwhile, Grace helped me prepare the legal groundwork. We documented everything but held off on filing anything. The timing had to be right. James finally came home from his conference, exhausted and distracted. He mentioned his mother had called him about concerns regarding our marriage. She thinks you're unhappy, he said cautiously over dinner. Something about your blog taking too much time. I reached across the table and took his hand. Honey, we need to talk about your mother, and about the trust. His face fell. She told you about that? Not exactly. But I know she's worried about losing control when you turn 40. That's what this is really about. Sarah, he hesitated. I know she can be difficult, but she's just looking out for me, for us. Is that why she broke into our house and tried to destroy my business? His head snapped up. What? I pulled out my laptop and showed him everything. The security footage, the hacking attempts, the illegal contract, all of it. With each revelation, his face grew darker. I had no idea, he whispered. The prenup she mentioned, she said it was your idea, to protect your business. She lied, James. She's been lying about a lot of things. He was quiet for a long moment. What do you want to do? I told him my plan. By the end, he was nodding slowly. Do it, he said. All of it. The next Sunday, we arrived at Patricia's house for the weekly family dinner. This time, I brought my laptop. Sarah, Patricia greeted me with her usual false warmth. I hope you've had time to think about our discussion. Oh, I have, I said brightly. In fact, I've been doing a lot of research about family, about legacy, about fraud. Her smile flickered. Marcus Thompson, sitting in his usual spot, shifted uncomfortably. I don't know what you mean, Patricia said. I opened my laptop and connected it to her large TV screen. Let me show you. For the next 20 minutes, I played everything. The security footage of her break-in, audio of her call with Marcus, documentation of the hacking attempts, financial records showing her mismanagement of the family trust. That's enough. Marcus started to stand, but James cut him off. No, it's not, he said quietly. Keep going, Sarah. I pulled up the final document, a formal audit of the Roberts Family Trust, showing years of unauthorized withdrawals and questionable investments. You've been embezzling from your own son, I said to Patricia, using his inheritance to fund your lifestyle while trying to prevent him from taking control. That's why you're so desperate to get rid of me. A new wife might let you keep stealing, but you know I won't. Patricia's face had gone chalk white. James, she pleaded, you can't believe these lies. I'm your mother. A mother who tried to destroy my wife's career, James replied. Who hired a disbarred lawyer to threaten her? Who's been stealing from me for years? Everything I did was for you. No, I cut in. Everything you did was for control. But that's over now. I pressed a button on my laptop, and emails started flying out, to the hospital board, to the family lawyers, to the SEC investigators who'd been waiting for evidence of Patricia's financial crimes. You can't do this, Marcus sputtered. You have no right. Actually, Grace said, walking in from the kitchen where she'd been waiting, she has every right. And as the trustees' counsel, I'm obligated to report financial malfeasance when I find it. Within hours, Patricia's carefully constructed world began to crumble. The hospital board suspended her voting rights pending investigation. The family lawyers initiated emergency proceedings to freeze the trust's assets, and Marcus Thompson was taken into custody for practicing law without a license. But the real satisfaction came 3 months later when the Fusion Kitchen published my first cookbook. On the dedication page was a simple message. For my grandmother, who taught me that food is love. For my husband, who taught me that love is support. And for my mother-in-law, who taught me that the strongest recipes are the ones that survive attempts to destroy them. The book became a bestseller. Patricia, under house arrest while awaiting trial for financial fraud, had plenty of time to read the reviews. James took control of his trust early, given the circumstances. One of his first acts was to establish a foundation supporting immigrant entrepreneurs. I still run my blog, now expanded into a multimedia company celebrating cultural fusion through food. Last week, I received a letter from Patricia's lawyer. She wants to meet to apologize. I haven't decided if I'll go. Some recipes, after all, are better left unchanged. But I did send her a copy of my cookbook. After all, she'd always said family was the most important thing. And now, thanks to her, millions of readers know exactly how I feel about that. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But in my experience, it's best served with a side of justice and a garnish of success. And I've always been good with recipes.